Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all, and of course, our great president, the greatest. I mean, do you all agree that President Trump is the greatest president of your lifetime? Let me know what you think. Give me a yes or no, an honest yes or no, and I'm going to say yes. President Trump is the greatest president of my lifetime, without a doubt. And you could make a good case that he's the greatest president of all time, but most definitely the greatest president of my lifetime is not even up. The American Girl, welcome, first in the chat. And I'll give you an example, and it's this latest thing with Iran. He calls it economic D-Day. And you know, when I was a baby, Vietnam was still going on, right? I was 4 years old when Vietnam ended. My dad's a Vietnam combat veteran. And, you know, we had Vietnam and all these other wars since and everything else. And I'll tell you, I remember I went to the Vietnam Wall in D.C. when it was pretty new, actually. It was like 94. I don't remember what year the wall went up, but it was like 94. So it wasn't brand new, but it was kind of new. It wasn't as old as it is now, obviously. And I remember it was so sad. And, you know, the Vietnam veterans are like really old guys now, right? But back then there were so many Vietnam veterans that were there. And some of them were homeless, and it was just sad. And you look at the names on that wall, and It break your heart. It really does. And you look at this situation with Iran, and this is one of the things that makes President Trump the greatest president, right? Iran has been doing all kinds of crazy things to keep the money flowing. They've been using ghost ships to get oil out and sell it to China. Their ghost ships are ships that don't have any trackers on them. They've been using ships with false registries and all of this stuff. President Trump's putting a stop to that. They've tracked it all down. They've been getting by through doing currency exchanges. Countries, I'm not some sophisticated criminal like the Iranians, so I don't know how all this works, but they have a way of just exchanging cash so the Iranians can get money and get dollars and everything else, and other countries have been doing this, and there's a bunch of other things too, and President Trump is putting a complete stop to that. And so what he's doing makes him the greatest, because he's under so much pressure, tremendous amounts of pressure, to end this war, right? And the way to end it is a mass bombing campaign of this country that has 90 million people in it, with many, many large cities with millions of residents in them, civilians. Put Americans at risk, maybe even a ground invasion. Do all of these things, and he's not bowing to the pressure. He's going for the long game, and the long game is to starve them out, right? The wall was 82, okay. So, but it was newer. So I was there in 94, 12 years old. 12 years old the wall was when I went there. And when you see a man like President Trump, we got a midterm election coming up, you know, he's not bowing to the pressure. He's like, no, we're gonna starve them out. He says, I'm in no hurry, you know, and how long can a country of this size survive completely choked off? I mean, we've cut off so much of their money already. I mean, there's no getting around it. But what little they have coming in that's keeping them alive, he's cutting that off now. And most presidents, they go in for the ground invasion and do all of these things because it's ego. They don't want to look weak, or they're worried about, you know, Frank Luntz does some focus group, and the result tells them that if they don't do this, he's going to lose. So that, you know, and you know, there were and the polls say this, so they want They want to look good. So out of their ego, they go and get Americans killed. And President Trump says, I'm not going to bow to that. I'm not going to do that. Right? Absolutely. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And you should be proud of him for doing it this way. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure that you subscribe. The next stream, I'll be live in the studio taking your live calls, okay? So don't miss that. You won't want to miss it, I promise. I got a lot to cover today. I'm going to talk about what the left are doing to this poor girl that they're accusing of having an affair with the president, which is total BS, and I'm going to lead with that today, so you won't want to miss that. Well, you know, the largest trafficker of humans in world history was the Joe Biden auto pen presidency, right? They brought 25 million illegals into the country. There was labor trafficking, which is modern day slavery, sex trafficking, child trafficking, all the different traffickings and slavery and everything going on. And President Trump ended that. He ended the sex trafficking, the child trafficking, the slave trade, because it's a slave trade from the southern border. And the Democrats not only brought 25 million during Biden's presidency, they were going to bring, there'd probably be another 100 million in the country by now if Biden or Willie Brown's girlfriend, Kamala Harris, had become president. Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's how the Democrats are, right? The Democrats were all about the African slave trade, the antebellum South, and all of that. They launched the insurrection against the federal government known as the Civil War, right? To maintain their slave trade. And the Democrats, throughout the history of the Democrat Party, they've always had different types of slavery, right? So they had the historic slavery in the South that we most often refer to. After the Democrats lost the Civil War and their insurrection was put down, they formed the first Democrat community activist organization. Do you know what the first Democrat community activist organization was? I'm going to tell you, Ku Klux Klan. And they started a new era of slavery, right? Jim Crow. First, it started with the sharecropping, right? So they conned the newly freed slaves into being sharecroppers and farming on the land, and nickeled and dimed them so they were slaves. Really, they were still working their land. So they had the sharecropper thing going on, and of course, Jim Crow all the way up until the 1970s. Really, the Democrats had blacks in slavery in other ways in the South, all the way up until the 1970s. I've talked about that a lot. They did it through, a lot of it through the jail system. You know, there's a book I highly recommend. It's one of those books that I've read that I've kept. It's called Slavery by Another Name. Slavery by Another Name. And what the Democrats did up until the 1970s is they would arrest blacks on the street in the South, right, for fake charges, loitering, whatever. Put them in the county jails, and then the county jails, the local sheriffs would hire them out, take all the money, of course, to work local farms, ranches, factories, you know, labor, right, whatever they needed labor for. Right. So, and then all of that ended, and then they started with the southern border, bringing the illegals from Latin America into the country, low-income workers from the South, and here we are again with a new form of slavery. So the Democrat Party, throughout their entire history, have had slaves. The recent slaves in the slave trade was the illegals from the southern border. You know, and they're always fighting to keep their slaves, and the Republicans are always freeing the slaves. That's it. You know, my daughter was telling me yesterday, she got back from Los Angeles a couple weeks ago, and My daughter was in LA for about a month, and I was asking her if she's noticed that it's not as crowded out there because of all the deportations. And she told me, she said there's whole parts of the city that she used to go out at that would be busy and crowded that are ghost towns now. Places where there were like restaurants and clubs and bars, you know, places young people go. Totally nothing there anymore. There's no one there because of the deportations. Mm-hmm. So the deportations are working. If you're new, subscribe, okay? The next stream I'll be live in the studio taking your calls. And all opinions are welcome. And the phone number will be pinned in the live stream, okay? And I'm pretty ticked at what the left are doing to this poor girl that works for the president. It's disgusting. And I'm going to break it all down and cover it and take your calls on it on the program. When's the last time you've seen a story about the speaking of the Navy, when's the last time you've seen a story of the starving sailors on the Lincoln? They've dropped that, haven't they? Because it's not true, and the story was falling apart, and they've stopped covering the Abraham Lincoln. 3 days ago, they were telling us it was a ship of starving sailors. Yep, she's a cancer survivor. But this is a tough thing she's going through now, so I'm going to cover the whole thing and break it down. I'm pretty disgusted by it. Have you noticed? They've totally dropped the Abraham Lincoln starvation story. Why do you think that is? Because the story was falling apart. That's why. Hey guys, also make sure you like the video if you don't mind. If you like the video, you get my video recommended to people that have not yet found my channel. So do me the favor of liking the video. What lie have I told, Murray? That they have not been doing any stories on the Lincoln for like 2 or 3 days now. Don't you love how the liberals are all of a sudden the defenders of the military? Right? They hate the military. Now all of a sudden they're the big defenders of it. That's how the Democrats are. Believe me. Well, all ships are rotated. Yes, the George Washington is going to replace it. They rotate all the ships. That's right. And then when the Lincoln gets to port, do you imagine a bunch of sailors are going to walk off the ship starving, skin and bones, like at the end of a war, you know, where they're bringing home the POWs or something? I don't think so. I don't think so. November, yeah. You know, I talk about this a lot. It's so funny. When I first started doing this, George Bush the father was president, right? H.W. Bush, Bush 41. Every election, people say the same thing to me. What are you going to talk about when George Bush isn't president? What are you going to talk about when Bill Clinton isn't president? Brian, what are you going to do when George W. Bush isn't president? What are you going to do? Your show's over, Brian, when George W. Bush... Brian, you're going to have nothing to talk about when Obama's not president. It's just it's the same thing. It's the same thing. What are you going to do when Biden's not president? Oh, my goodness. I cover the news and the politics, and the show always goes on. You know, it cracks me up. Every 4 years, it's the same thing, you know. But no, I'll be doing this till I'm dead, till I cannot talk anymore or think. I'll be in hospice broadcasting. I don't know, you know, I've been doing it so long. Oh my goodness. Did any of you see me on Newsmax yesterday? Good show. We had great topics too on Newsmax. I was on around 12:30 yesterday. And those of you that are new who may have found me from watching Newsmax, Welcome, 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 welcome. You'll love the show, I promise you. What do you say? On the MAGA cruise, enjoy your excursions while the military is out to sea for more than 90 days. Yeah, CNN should be, they should meet the Lincoln when it docks, and we can watch the guys walk off the ship. President Trump's policies are as close to perfect as humanly possible. How many minutes past the hour is it, guys? I can't see the clock on my phone. How many minutes past the hour is it? I don't have my Trump watch on. I left my Trump watch at home on my desk. Oh yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. It would be really funny if they, 20 minutes after, okay, I got some time. It would be really funny, thank you guys, 20 minutes after the hour. There's always, yeah, plus the Lincoln's in a fleet group. So the worst case is, and it's an aircraft carrier, they would fly food in on helicopters, by plane, or get some off the other ships. I mean, it's just so absurd. It's so absurd. But that's the left, man. That's how the left operate. Yes, they're absurd. The left are just absurd. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh man. I as much coffee as I drink, you would think I like coffee, but I really don't. I've just learned to tolerate it. Exactly. The whole first off, if they really had shortages like that, it would be top secret classified, and they would just bring food from the other ships. Yeah. Fire controller on a guided destroyer. Oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, don't worry. Pete Hegseth has everything under control with the military. They're fine. I mean, what we really had, which was kind of sad, is we had an obesity problem in the military. I remember when they had the Army 250th anniversary, and some of those soldiers they couldn't even march. Oh my goodness. I know Pete Hegseth was pissed off, and the president too. Remember that? Well, I drink a lot of coffee because I do a show every morning. So, like I say, I'm addicted to coffee like Hunter Biden's addicted to cocaine and Russian and Ukrainian hookers. So, I'd rather be addicted to coffee than cocaine and hookers. Mm-hmm. Right? Wouldn't you? It's a much healthier addiction. Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's a cool day here in South Florida. It's 80 degrees, so we're having a cold spell today. Hunter's sober now? I wouldn't be so sure about that. When people that are hardcore drug addicts are sober, that means it means that they're doing lighter drugs. Like, remember Philip Seymour Hoffman? He had like a heroin addiction or something, and he was clean, but clean to Philip's, and he was a great actor, Philip Seymour Hoffman, right? He was in the Hunger Games, the last couple Hunger Games. He was, Boogie Nights, very great actor, but he was still doing cocaine. So when somebody's a hardcore addict like that, being clean means, well, I'm only doing cocaine now, or marijuana or something. You know what I mean? That's clean to them. It's sad, but it's true. Sad, but true. Mm-hmm. RFK Jr. is high on life. And look at all the trauma he's gone through. He's had a rough life. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is awesome, though, isn't he? Yep. Welcome, everyone. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. This is where MAGA comes to talk. The next stream, I'll be live in the studio taking your calls. And if everyone could like the video, I'd appreciate that. You know, when you guys like the video, it gets the video recommended to people that have not yet found the channel. So please do me the favor of liking the video, if you don't mind. All right? Robert, why do you have to be so vile with your language? I mean, you know, can't you, and all caps. Why do liberal trolls use all caps and just use awful language? I mean, you guys are, do you think you're making your calls look good? You know, when the way that you liberals talk with your language and your word choice and the caps, it's a real turnoff, man, to people. People get, you know, you freak people out. Why would people turn the country over to people you support, right? All that language and full caps, every one of those is an endorsement of President Trump and the MAGA movement. Yep. Now, how many years? I served in the military for the same amount of time as President Clinton, President Obama, and President Biden. Right? Now, the liberals are trying to figure that one out. Mm-hmm. It's like, what does that mean? MAGA knows what it means. MAGA knows. Yep. Well, the main reason for the national debt, we learned from Nick Shirley, the Somali pirates of Minneapolis, and these other Democrat fraud operations ripping off Medicaid all over the country. Between that and the illegals getting benefits illegally, that's why there's a national debt, right? Everybody knows this. That's why they're trying to pass this Nick Shirley law in California, because he exposed what they're doing. What happened to all caps? The all caps liberal, I guess he took what I said to heart. He doesn't know how to type without using vile words, so he's just, no. You know, Gen Z can't even write in cursive. What do they know? Mm-hmm. Liberals are pretty miserable. There's no getting around it. Liberals are incredibly miserable, very dysfunctional, and most of them are mental patients, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the Democrat Medicaid fraud operation was stealing hundreds of billions of dollars a year from the government. That's why we have a national debt. That's why they picked Tim Walz to be Kamala Harris's running mate, because they were so happy. They wanted him to bring the Medicaid fraud operation that he oversees in Minnesota to the whole country, right? Well, listen, guys, I'm going to head to the studio. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe, all right? And everyone, like the video, all right? Remember, please like the video. I'll see you in a few minutes in the studio taking your calls live. Thanks for watching. See you in a few.